episode number 37, Sunday, July 15th, 2012.
Welcome to the XJ Talk Show. And now here's your host, Tony Mutteroy on xjtalk.com.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. That's an old radio term, but it's the future, and now we do podcasts. Of course, there is still radio out there, but, I don't have that kind of money. Anyway, it's been a while since we've done a podcast, and I've been promising myself to get back on the stick. I've been getting a lot of compliments about old shows, and thought that it might just be time to get back in the saddle, so to speak. Anyway, we'll get started here in just a couple of minutes.
xjtalk.com. It's where you go when you're not off-road.
That's right. I know it's cheesy, but I like it. But then again, that's me. I'm full of cheese. Anyway, so as I said in the intro, we haven't had a show here in quite some time. I think the last one was at the I think it was the 31st of December 31st of 2011. And I don't know why people say 2011. 2011. You understand what I'm saying, I think. So it is a Sunday, and yesterday I did some maintenance on the 1999 Jeep Cherokee that my oldest daughter has been driving for the last 7 months, and prior to that, my wife was driving it. One of the things that I had noticed after getting it was kind of a grinding noise, not really bad. It was kind of even a whooshing noise, like maybe you would hear whenever the brakes are dragging, but not that loud, and certainly not any squeaks. Anyway, a good friend of mine and fellow administrator on xjtalk.com told me after hearing it, he says that's the axle wheel bearing assemblies that need to be replaced. And I think that we had about 145,000 miles on the 99 XJ when we got it. So, assuming that those were the original axle wheel bearings, they probably did need to be replaced. I think that the manual calls for them to be replaced at 100,000 miles. At any rate, I ordered some wheel bearing assemblies after I was a little puzzled. I would have ordered them a long time ago, but I went on to rockauto.com, where I get a lot of my parts, and they are not a sponsor here, by the way. And I went to look, and they had good prices on the Timken axle wheel bearings, which is the only thing I want on my Jeeps. And I priced them, and they were seemingly a lot cheaper than what they were when I bought them for my 98, but I may be remembering wrong. So I was a little disappointed to see that there is a potential difference on the 99, whether the rotors are composite or if they're cast iron. Now, I've changed the rotors and the brakes on my 98 many times. I don't think I've done it on the 99 yet. And in fact, when I checked it here recently, the pads still look good and the rotors look great. But anyway, I had to remove the wheel and actually measure the rotor that was on there to determine if it was a composite or a cast iron. Now, it looks like cast iron to me. I mean, if I understand composite to me wouldn't be a metal. That would be some sort of ceramic type thing, but maybe not. That might just be my misunderstanding. At any rate, I took it off, and apparently halfway through the 1999 year, they switched from composite to cast iron, and then in 2000 and 2001, they continued using the cast iron rotors. They're slightly different sizes, and if you try to put a wheel bearing, axle wheel bearing on there that is not composite or cast iron, it will bind up and not allow the wheel to turn properly. And I would hope that it wouldn't let it turn at all, but because if it turns a little bit, that would just mean there's going to be a lot of friction and potential fire. But that's just my guess. It's nothing that I've experienced or read. But needless to say, if there's friction involved in the turning wheel, that's not a good thing. A lot of friction. So I took it off and looked at it, and looking at the rotor, it just looks like cast iron to me, and even had a flat. It kind of looks like a hat, where it's nice and a defined edge where it drops off from where the lugs go through to the actual assembly or the actual potential braking part. And but I measured it, and it measured to what the composite rotor is supposed to measure. And I think that the difference is only an eighth of an inch difference between the two. So to me, it said composite. So I looked online, and of course the Timken bearings for the composites were $20 more or $10 more. And it also surprised me to see that the 98 I had was a composite, which I wasn't given a choice when I ordered that one, so it made it a lot simpler for me. And I looked, and the Timken part number that I had on one of my the old wheel bearing box that I had when I replaced it on the 98, that was the same Timken part number that was available for the 99, so it made it a no-brainer. I just ordered 2 of those. Anyway, got those last week, and I was going to order some U-joints for the Dana 30 axle and replace those since you have all that off anyway. It's just right there, and there's no sense in running the risk of tearing up an axle later by a failed U-joint. And so I went by O'Reilly's and picked up some U-joints. They didn't have the ones that I wanted to get. I really would have liked to have Spicer's to go in there, but they didn't carry those, and I figured as much off-road wheeling my daughter does, these should be fine, and worst case is I'll change them out again later. So they were the ones that are the sealed units that are not greasable units. They have, when I say sealed, they don't have a little fitting on it, so you can't grease them. Anyway, and I picked up the big C-clamp that I call it. I think they call it what is it? A bearing compressor or something. Anyway, to me, it's just a big, actually, I call it a big ass C-clamp. And fortunately, this time I actually had a half-inch drive that would be capable of turning that thing where I could actually use it without just having to put a wrench on it and pressure it to get the U-joints to slide out. And oh my God, it's just so much easier to use that thing than it is to use the vise, and certainly a lot easier but a lot less of a workout using a hammer and a socket. Something happened that I have never had happen to me before, and mind you, I've probably only changed out a dozen U-joints in my life, so I wouldn't say that I have a lot of experience doing it. But one of the things on the first axle, which was the passenger side axle, I was sitting there on the floor, and I had the C-clamp on the U-joint, and I think it was the U-joint for the the main axle, not the one that holds the little stub. Anyway, I was running the half-inch drive, and it just wasn't turning. And so I stopped, and the air compressor had kicked back on, so I was going to let it pressure back up and then maybe hopefully get a little more oomph with the additional air pressure in the tank. And I hit it, and I just held it. It wasn't moving, but I just held it. I think I could see that it was moving slightly, that the big screw portion that goes through the C-clamp was actually moving slightly, very, very slightly. It might have just been wishful hoping. At least that's what I was thinking at the time. And then all of a sudden, boom! And I thought, good, it broke loose. And I looked, and the cap that I was pushing on hadn't moved. And the piece that actually I saw something shoot out the back end of the opening of the C-clamp and across the floor. And I thought, well, what happened? I don't understand. This thing doesn't look like it's moved. So anyway, I took the C-clamp off and looked, and the entire top of the cap had come off of the opposite side of the U-joint. So apparently I was getting some motion into that, imparting some motion into that U-joint, and it was enough and it was stuck so bad that the cap itself didn't move, but the top of the cap, like if it had a lid, like a mayonnaise jar or something, that top came completely off and left a nice edge. So what I had there was a nice metal cylinder wedged inside the axle portion of the where the U-joint goes. And I thought to myself, oh, good God, why can't anything be easy? I got this C-clamp, and I'm doing it with a half-inch drive this time, and it's not going to require any elbow grease. I just hold it in place, and no, nothing can be easy. And then I remembered I had to get a one of those little air hammers. I forget exactly what it's called, but it's an air tool that has a chisel, actually several chisels, and you put it in there, and it just beats the hell out of something and cuts it or hammers it very quickly. And I thought, hey, man, maybe I can use that. Maybe I can get out of more manual labor by using that. So I went ahead and forced the U-joint back the other way to get the other cap out, and thankfully that one came out not a big deal. And I did spray them down with WD-40 prior to doing it. I never wait long enough before I start trying to move the things with something, but I did spray them down. So maybe the additional time while I was working on the other one, or perhaps moving it slightly from the prior 10 minutes made that cap come out okay, and that one didn't fail like the other one did. So once I had the little stubby bit of the axle off, and I was able to take the axle with the nice metal cylinder where the U-joint cap should be, I took it over there to the bench and put it in the vise, and got my little air chisel and put the I actually started with a chisel to start with, and to my surprise and delight, it moved very easily and very quickly. But the thing was too wide and too big to actually get the cylinder completely out without it beating on the I don't even know what you call it, the yoke. Would it be the yoke where the U-joint fits into? So thankfully I had another bit that I could put into the air chisel that was a kind of more of a point. And it's not a sharp point, but it's a lot smaller surface area than what I had on there, because what I had on there was like an actual chisel. So I put that on there, and it took a little bit to get it on just the metal cylinder that was stuck in there. But once I did, it came right out. Very happy. Came right out, no problems. And it just goes to show you that the right tools make a big difference. Well, I'll take that back. Even the wrong tools, if they work, it's better than having a hammer and beating it to death and perhaps doing damage to the yoke itself. So anyway, it slid right out, and it seems like every time I do a U-joint, I don't when I take them out or install them, it always seems like I have to go through a relearning process because I just don't do them often enough. Anyway, that by far, changing out the U-joints was by far the most difficult portion of this job. Anyway, I got the U-joint in, got the little clips, the little C clips that hold the U-joint, each cap on, got those in. Very happy with the way it looked and moved, and just had a good feeling that now my daughter's going to be driving something that is not going to fail. When you have something that is over 100,000 miles, it was at 150 at this point, you don't know for sure what's going to happen, especially if she goes whoever's driving it, goes any distance. And I've purposely asked them not to drive the vehicle very far, and certainly not 20 miles away. Although I have seen individuals, an XJ Talk member, that I don't want to mention any names, Scott, driving his Jeep Cherokee with like a 45-degree angle on the driver's side wheel because the wheel bearing was so bad. And we certainly weren't at that. It was just making a noise, and they seemed to both be making a noise. So one thing I did do, once I got the bearing out of there, I took it and tried turning it manually and holding it up to my ear, and I could hear, because even though Matt's very knowledgeable about vehicles, I still doubted that that's what was causing the sound. So I needed to prove it to myself. So I held it up to my ear, and I could hear kind of a little grinding noise, and the faster I spun it, the more grinding I could hear, and also too I could feel it in my fingers where I was turning it. So I had an old bearing, axle wheel bearing that it took off my 98, 3 or 4 years ago, I guess now. And I think I had about 100,000 miles on the 98 at the time that I changed it. And I changed it because I was hearing a noise, and one of the many things that people were telling me that might be the problem, one of them was the axle wheel bearing. Turned out to be a stretched chain, but that's another story. But anyway, I changed out both of the wheel bearing assemblies, and I had the old one. So the old one with 100,000 miles on it, I picked it up, took it out of the box. I only had one left because I'd given the other one away to somebody that needed a wheel bearing. Anyway, I took that one and I turned it and listened to it. Couldn't hear a thing. Well, you could hear something, but you certainly couldn't hear that grinding and the kind of rough noise that I was hearing from the one I had just taken off the 99. And then I noticed the feel. It was very, very smooth. It wasn't quite as smooth as the new Timken bearings that I just purchased, but it was still very, very smooth. And I tell you, that was a great thing to do, because now I know that it is, I know how it feels. And I know that if one feels all grindy and rough, then that's not the way it's supposed to feel. It's supposed to be nice and smooth. Now, I don't know what happened to this bearing. The 99 is very rusty on the axle, anything low, and the brake area, all that stuff. It almost seems like it was sitting in water. Now, I believe Matt had thought that maybe it just was sitting for a while, and I believe that the person that I bought it from had said it was sitting for a while. It just seems strange that it would be that rusty. And the only thing I can think of is it wasn't up north at all. It's always been down south. And if you're not familiar, I'm located in the Houston area, and the bolts don't get stuck unless they're shock bolts, and then they break off like they do everywhere else. So I would not have expected it to be that way, but perhaps it gets that way because if you're not driving it, the oils that are dropped by vehicles on the road, and you're driving through it, whether they're kicked up by the wheels, your wheels or the wheels in front of you, there seems to be a little oily mist that we're not really familiar with just by looking or even being out there on the road walking next to it. But I think that over the great distances and the oil that drops off of your vehicle, the oils that drop off the other vehicles, I think that over driving great distances, 5, 10, 15, 20 miles, it accumulates on the undercarriage, certainly on the axle, and I think it helps lubricate stuff where it doesn't get a real rusty color and texture. This stuff was really rusty. I was really surprised because it was not like what I'd seen on my 98. But I drive my 98 XJ every day and have since we got it from the showroom floor. And so anyway, that's my theory. I don't know. Maybe you have a different theory, and please, feel free to share. If you're not familiar, this I would think everybody would be, but if you're not familiar, this podcast really is in support of our website, xjtalk.com. It's not the other way around. The website, xjtalk.com, was started about 3.5 years ago. It's for Jeep Cherokees, but anybody is welcome to join the site and talk about, we have a general talk section, jump in there, talk about something interesting. And, but at any rate, we do the show, and I say we, because we do have people on from time to time, not today, but we do have people on from time to time, and we do the show in support of xjtalk.com. We want you to join the site. We want you to join in. And we even would like for you to join in the show. If you have any questions or comments or corrections you would like to make of what I've told you or what you hear from a guest, you can call our 24-hour by 7-day-a-week voice line at 530-675-4102. That's 530-675-4102. And chances are very good that your voicemail will be used on one of the podcasts, so you can actually hear yourself on the show. You can also send comments on the website. You can send them via email. Just send them to comments@xjtalk.com, and we'll may read them, may answer if it's a question. So it could be questions or comments. Just send it to questions. Just send it to comments@xjtalk.com.
Do you have a question or comment that you'd like to hear on the show? Just call 530-675-4102 any time of the day or night and leave it on our voicemail. Oh, red Jeeps are sexy.
Yep, red Jeeps are definitely sexy. And, we don't want to forget about the green Jeeps either.
Yeah, I guess green Jeeps are okay.
Well, they are. I mean, they're still Jeeps, so they're definitely okay. Anyway, that's for my buddy in New Zealand. You know who you are. It shakes a lot in New Zealand these days. Seriously, though, we certainly hope that the seismic activity in New Zealand will stop very, very soon. It seems like they've been having constant issues with earthquakes for far, far too long. But Wayne there in Christchurch in a previous show told us about the earthquake, the very severe earthquakes that they had there. And fortunately, there was no loss of life in the first major one, and sadly, the second one there was. But if you haven't heard that podcast, I recommend that you go over to xjtalk.com, go up to the very top and click on podcasts, which may be how you got to this podcast, which, we are also available on iTunes, so that it's possible that you got the podcast from iTunes. But anyway, go to there and look back, and you will see that we have an interview with Wayne, XJ Talk member and moderator, xjtalk.com, and you can hear firsthand how his Jeep Cherokee helped him get out and go collect his mother-in-law and bring her back to his house, and basically allowed him to traverse a very dramatic and different landscape after the very severe earthquake they had there. So anyway, bring you kind of up to date on things that have happened in the recent past. I don't believe we've had a show since my wife and I purchased a 2003 Jeep Wrangler. It is not a Rubicon. It is not a what is it, LJ? The ones that are the long ones. It's the TJ, and I had wanted to get a TJ for my wife for some time, and it didn't look like we were going to be able to do that, and that's why I picked up the 1999 XJ. In my estimation, the 99 is the best year for the Jeep Cherokees, and that is because it is OBD2. It is of course, the 4.0, I think they probably came with other than 4.0s, but that's the only thing that I would buy for an engine in a Jeep. And the 99 has the full-sized exhaust ports, which they changed in 2000, 2001. And it also has the curvy intake. I forget what it's called, but basically the intake that puts the horsepower back in. And I'm thinking about it. I hope I'm not wrong about the head. I don't think that has the. I think that was the year before they put the 0331 heads on the Cherokees, the 2000 and 2001, and those have a tendency to crack, and I definitely didn't want that. So even though to me the 2000s and 2001s are very, very nice, I didn't want to get a vehicle that I was potentially having to change the head on. And then also to find a different year head. So anyway, we were very lucky to find that 99 and get that, and that was going to be my wife's vehicle until we were able to get the TJ. And we got a TJ, and you may be saying, what do I want to hear about a Wrangler for? I like all Jeeps. Well, I like all Jeeps that I consider Jeeps, and that means they need to have a front axle, and that front axle needs to be either a straight axle or four-wheel drive. I'm not big on two-wheel drive Jeeps, but I can't really fault a two-wheel drive Cherokee, especially because all you have to do is change out that axle, put in a transfer case, and I think you got to change the back end of the transmission so it'll turn it into a four-wheel drive. I just like four-wheel drives. There's nothing wrong with a two-wheel drive Jeep Cherokee. But anyway, my estimation is if it's got a front axle, it should have a Jeep name on it. If it's IFS, it shouldn't say Jeep. Chrysler, Dodge, whatever you want to put on it, that's fine. Don't call it a Jeep. Don't even get me started with the Liberties. I definitely don't care for Liberties, and it's very much a emotional thing for me because the year that the Liberties came out is the year they stopped, or the same year, but anyway, around either that year or the year after, that's when they stopped making the Cherokees. So the Liberty, which to me is a yuppie vehicle, was made to replace the Cherokee, and they should never have replaced the Cherokee. They should never have replaced the 4.0, but we can thank our government for pushing the standards of gas mileage and so on and so forth, which there's nothing wrong with that, I understand. But I want a vehicle that's going to be able to get me from point A to point B, and I want power and torque. And I don't think that the 3.8, is it a V6? The 3.8 V6 does that. I've heard repeatedly, and I've heard it on shows like Trucks, that the 3.8 that's in the JKs is underpowered and is not the best engine to go in a Jeep four-wheel drive. But we go back to our government and the MPG of the vehicle. And I don't know if you guys caught it or not, but here recently there is a push by Congress. I don't know if it's one congressman or more than one, about the problem with death wobble. Congress is taking up death wobble, if you can believe it. The article that I read, it basically says vehicles with front axles are prone to having this, what we call death wobble. I know how Congress works. They're going to want to try to do something that is going to cause, and it was specifically about the Jeep JKs, I believe. They're going to want to do something where they're going to try to make Chrysler, and this is my opinion, I think this is the way that they're trying to go, where they're going to try to make Chrysler not have straight axles for the front. So in the future, I feel that you will see Jeeps with only IFS, and if you want to put a front axle, which is what God intended four-wheel drives to have, you're going to have to buy one, a used one, or find one on a wrecked Jeep and take off that IFS crap and put on a front axle. Now, to me, IFS is not as strong. IFS is meant for comfort. It is also meant for driving across very rough terrain at very high speeds. And there is Jeep speed. I know. I think that is a very interesting thing. It's not what I'm into. I don't want IFS. And I'm not planning on going out and buying a Jeep JK anytime soon. But I would at least like to have the ability to get one that is halfway what I would like to have. So anyway, going back to the TJ, that's why we got a TJ. I did not want a JK. The reason why, they're really cool looking, I especially like the four-door JKs, but the reason why is I have been told that the metal is much thinner on a JK. Again, weight savings, which equals miles per gallon, and also two, the 3.8 engine that they have is underpowered. So what do you wind up with? You wind up with something that you either have to make a lot of modifications to, or don't take it off-road. Now, I know that the JK owners, they can take them off-road, and they do, and they're successful. It's still a Jeep. It's still a very capable vehicle. It's just not what I would like to have. I want the 4.0. I like the thicker metal of the TJ, because that means that if it is taken off-road, it's going to be less, or I don't want to say less wear and tear, it's going to be less susceptible to metal fatigue because of the flexing that happens when you take it off-road. Now, truth be told, this is my wife's vehicle, and she won't even go with me off-road. She complains whenever I drive us anywhere on-road, but she won't drive herself. She still wants me to drive, but she likes to complain about how I drive. Well, guys, we know how it is. Now, truth be told, I drive fast. I see things very well. I make my strategy getting to point A to point B, moment to moment. I feel very comfortable. She doesn't. I don't feel that comfortable when I'm not in control either, so that's cool. I understand it. At any rate, the TJ we've been having a lot of fun with building it up. I understand it's not real body armor because it's just plastic, but I got her the 5-piece bushwhacker armor kit, which basically covers the rear quarter panels. You know, the curve between the side and the tailgate. A little strip below the tailgate, and it's all it's plastic, black plastic, but has the diamond plate simulation type thing on it. Got the ones that go along the side, down on the rockers. And there's a little piece that you really can't see that goes between the front grille and the front bumper. I got a couple of KC lights mounted on the bumper, and what did I say? Oh yeah, the big deal was I put a 4-inch N 2.0 rough country lift on it. Oh my god, it took me 3 days. 3 days to do that. Now, I think I probably could have completed it in 2. And mind you, the first day was 8 hours. The second day was 12 hours. And the third day was about 7 hours, I think. Now, I think I could have completed it in 2 hours. I'm sorry, 2 hours. I wish. In 2 days. But those damn mother bolts that hold the shocks to the body. Oh my God. You know, I thought to myself, hey, I got a 1/2-inch air tool here. I'll be able to take those guys off. And I put the long extension on there and I hit it, and it turned real easy. And I was like, yay. And then I went, oh, wait a minute. That turned really easy, really fast. And I pulled the thing down, and sure enough, I just had a bit of bolt and a nice nut for a new hat for that bolt. So anyway, out of the 4 bolts that were holding the upper shocks onto the body, 3 of them broke. And I tried drilling. I drilled one, but for some reason, I guess the 2 drill bits that I had were dull, or they got dull while I was trying to drill that one out. I managed to get one drilled pretty well through, but I just had to give up. I was so tired, and it just wasn't going to happen. Really, the entire lift kit was done, with the exception of the shocks. And just driving the TJ, backing it up so I could clean up the garage so I could put the TJ away. I was just really shocked at how bouncy that thing is without the shocks to keep it from bouncing. All I went over was about a 1-inch drop from the from the garage at the house, just backing up into the driveway, and it really bounced. To me, it would just be unsafe to drive. So anyway, I told my wife, sorry, you can't drive it. I'll finish it up the next day. Went online, and I remembered, and I had seen this before, but it wasn't something I had read in the recent past, so I've forgotten about it. But the shock bolts breaking is a very common thing. So I had looked, and one of the things they had talked about was using an air chisel to just bust those things out and use bolts and screws. So the next day was Monday, and I went to work, and there close to the place where I work is a Ace Hardware. And so on the way home, I stopped by, and I picked up some bolts, some nuts, and some lock washers that I could use to replace those bolts that I was going to beat the hell out of to get those little nuts out of there, and the little stubby bit that was left over of the bolt that was inside those. And yeah, come to think of it, that wasn't a bolt and a nut that came out when it broke off. It was just the cap and the bolt that came off. Make a correction there. Anyway, so while there, I was a little surprised to see, because I thought Craftsman was something that was just sold at Sears, and it's not. Apparently, they're Craftsman sold at various stores, and Ace Hardware was one place that it's sold at. So while I was there, I saw that they had an air chisel, Craftsman air chisel, and it was more than what I wanted to spend, but come on, it may be more of a one-use tool, which it turned out to be with the U-joint. And then it didn't come with any chisels, so I had to spend like $25 for 3 chisels to go in it. And I was a little concerned that it wasn't going to be powerful enough to get those welded nuts off and the little bolts that were sticking in them. And reluctantly, because I was just so tired from working on the Jeep from the 2 days, but definitely interested in getting done with it and letting my wife get back on the road, especially with the lift, because the lift was really put that thing up in the air. I was really surprised how much difference it made. But anyway, I got the air chisel and turned on the air compressor and let it build up, and then got under the Jeep, and I hit that nut on the where the bolt. The first one I did was the one I drilled almost out, so it was really easy to stick that air chisel in that little hole that I made. And oh my God, it was like almost instantaneous that it came out. It was such a relief that I was able to be done with that when I had spent literally hours trying to drill it out before that point. Again, the right tools for the job, and there's actually enough space between looking at from the wheel well in. There's actually enough space to be able to get a nut in there and hold it in place, or you can even drop the through the hole that the shock top fits into. You can actually drop the bolt in, and then there's enough space to get a wrench in there on it and hold it in place. So I was very happy with that, because I was actually considering having to drill a hole in the body and the bottom of the pan, or whatever you call it, so that I could get to that nut, either the nut or the top of the bolt, and I didn't have to do that. So I think maybe I spent an hour getting all those out, and getting them out went really fast. Getting the bolt in and bolting the shock down was the thing that took the longest amount of time. But certainly, after spending a couple hours just trying to drill out one bolt, an hour to get that done was nothing at all. And then it was ready. It was ready to drive. And of course, I had brought my wife out and showed her the difference in size when I just had the coils on, and then the front coils on, and then I had her come out when I had the rear coils on, and then et cetera, et cetera. So it took a really long time, but I'm very proud of how it turned out. And in fact, if you're curious at all about Wranglers, and we have a Wrangler site. It's not nearly as popular as XJ Talk. It's quite a ghost town, actually. And the only thing I can figure is that there's just so many Wrangler sites, so many Jeep Wrangler sites, and there's people that really love those sites. It could just be an advertising thing that not enough people know about it, but it did not take off like XJ Talk did. So if you are interested in being on a Wrangler site that is similar to the XJ Talk, if you're familiar with that at all, then please come join us at xjtalk.com, and it keeps the whole talk thing going like what we have XJ Talk, and it's run by the same folks that do XJ Talk, and hopefully it's just as friendly and just as interesting as XJ Talk is. And you could be part of a site that grows, and you could say, tell your grandchildren, yeah, I was on that site when it first took off. But please come join us. It's xjtalk.com. And we're available on Facebook, both xjtalk.com and wranglertalk.com. Slow down and say the words, Tony. And this is a little outside the whole Jeep realm, but keeping in mind that there are disasters that occur, and sometimes it's great to have a Jeep to be able to get either into harm's way or out of harm's way, for rescue type things. It's one big aspect of disaster is communication. It's great to be able to get in and out of things, but things can happen, and sometimes you need to be able to communicate that you're stuck, or you need help, or an ambulance, or whatever. So communications can be a big part of Jeeps, and we have another website that has to do with ham radio, amateur radio. Those guys that everybody makes fun of. It's even the Simpsons have even made fun of the ham club members that were one of the nerds. But it can be very convenient, and certainly has a lot more range available than what a Citizens Man radio would have. So anyway, we have a ham radio site, as well as the Wrangler and XJ site. That is and this is a little obscure. You may, unless you're a ham, you wouldn't get this. This is nerd plus. It's actually the letter R in Morse code, and in Morse code, the letter R is dit. So if you think of the SOS type things, you hear the little tone. So the tones, they're either a short tone or a long tone. So the short tones are dits, and the long tones are das. So the name of the site is DI dash, the little minus sign, DAH for da, another minus sign, and DIT.com. So it's didadit.com, di-dah-dit.com. And just you're laughing and you're going, why the hell did you pick something so obscure? Well, I couldn't find anything that was like Ham Talk or anything that would mesh well. And from my years of being a ham radio operator and knowing about CW, Morse code type stuff, R is what you send in CW. Whenever the person you have been communicating with, when they end their transmission and when you start yours, you send R, R, R. In other words, I received what you sent me. So it's a very common practice in ham radio when you're doing Morse code, or it's also called CW, to send that R. And ham radio operators will understand what the dit is. And you can too. So this is another site that's actually much newer than xjtalk.com. And if you're interested in ham radio, you might want to check it out. If you are a ham radio operator, please check it out and jump in, especially if you're an off-road enthusiast. It doesn't have to be a Jeep. Let us know what you do with your radio in your rig to be ready for disasters, because that is a large portion of what ham radio is all about. Doing things, communicating, setting up in situations where there is no power, setting up antennas, and communicating for people that don't have a way of communicating because the cell towers are down, the power grid's out. The normal ways that you would communicate like you do every day are not available. Ham radio operators can communicate around the world with nothing but their Jeep and their high frequency radio that they have installed in the Jeep with a whip, a bug catcher. There's all kinds of funny names, screwdriver antennas. It's like any hobby, I guess. There's some really screwy sounding things that go along with it. And if any of that interests you, check out didadit.com. That's di-dah-dit.com. If for some reason you can't find it, send me a private message on xjtalk.com. I'm Mudderoy, as in Mudderoy, 1 R, and send me a PM and I'll send you the link. We'd love to see you there. Whether you're a ham or not, you're more than welcome. The same is true on wranglertalk.com, whether you have a Jeep or not. If you're interested in being on the site, join. XJ Talk, exactly the same thing. People have interesting things to say and do that aren't Jeep related. We understand that. There's other four-wheel drives besides that. We have a general section. You want to come share how your Ford F-150, how well it does on 44s, on rocks and stuff. Pictures we love, interesting stories we love. You're more than welcome. And that's the hallmark of all the XJ Talk, Wrangler Talk, and dit.com sites. There is no flaming. If there is a flame on your post, it'll happen once, because we will work with the individual that flamed you, and hopefully we'll make them understand that we don't do that on these sites. Everybody has something that they find interesting, and somebody else is going to find it interesting too, even if the majority doesn't. We want to respect our users, and our users, members, are very important to us. That's the difference that I want all these sites to be. I want everybody to feel comfortable about coming and asking questions, especially the dumb ones. Even though there are no dumb questions, people still feel they're dumb, and then they don't want to ask because they're afraid somebody's going to say, "You're an idiot." We don't do that on these sites. Without the members, without the people asking the questions, what is the point of having the site? It's like being part of a clique. Unless you have new people coming in, then doesn't everything kind of get static and boring? You know everybody, you know how they feel, you know what they think, you know what they do, and there is nothing new happening. Well, we don't want that. We want new people coming in. We want them asking their questions, because you never know. It could be a question that has never been asked before, or perhaps there'll be an answer that the gods that know everything didn't know. So anyway, off the soapbox, please come and join us. We hope to have a lot more of these podcasts coming up very soon. Would like to do it on a weekly basis. I'm not too sure we're going to be doing that as of yet. I got some plans, but I've had some plans for some time now, and haven't been able to carry them through. But at least I got a podcast out today. That's the big deal. So your involvement in the podcast, just like on the site, is very important. If you have something interesting to talk about on the show, please contact me. Love to have you on. It doesn't matter where you are. I can give you a call and get you on the show, talk about what you want to talk about. Even their international members, international listeners. We have Skype, and we can get you on through Skype anywhere in the world. So if you'd like to share something with our audience, please, check in and let us know what you'd like to say and what you'd like to talk about. I'm sure it would be a lot more preferable to listening to me drone on and on. So let me just do the questions and comments things here one more time so everybody knows where it is, because it's we really would like to hear from you.
Do you have a question or comment that you'd like to hear on the show? Just call 530-675-4102 any time of the day or night and leave it on our voicemail.
Yeah, do that. You can also just leave a voicemail and say you'd like to be on the show. And leave me some way of contacting you. Email would probably be best. And we can get stuff set up, email, and then maybe talk on the phone a bit, and then record your question, comment, or even longer. We've done 30-minute, 45-minute interviews before, so if you got something to say, we'd love to hear it. Anyway, until next time, I want to thank you very much for downloading and listening to this podcast, and hope to speak to you again really soon, and of course see you on one of the sites, xjtalk.com.
Ooh, red Jeeps are sexy.